All right, so in this video, we're continuing on from the last one in which we learned the basics of FOIL, and now we're going to do some examples, okay? So in the last video, I showed you right here, and I wrote it kind of out here of the process of doing this, how we're going to multiply each one, okay? And I'll show that, and we'll do that here with a few simple examples. So let's give you the first one. Let's just make it simple. X plus 1 times x plus 2, okay? Let's make it simple, all right? So our first step we have here, right, we're multiplying our a times c. Remember our a and our c. So our first two terms here, which would be our x's here, okay? So we're gonna have x times x, okay? Now, I can write this all out over here and go f equals our FOIL x times x, okay? So then when we do x times x, we get x squared, all right? Now the next one is our a times d, our a term times our d term. So here it's our last ones, okay? Or the outer, sorry, they're outer ones, so outer. And our outer ones here, if it's these first one and the last one, here the first one is x and the last one is 2. So here it's going to be x times 2. And when we do x times 2, we get 2x, okay? So you see I'm just taking this what I did up here and just kind of transferring it, all right? Now, next one, our next thing we do, b times c. So our b term, our b and our c are two inner terms, So b times c, our middle terms here, in this case, are 1 and x. So we're doing 1 times x. And when we do 1 times x, we get x, right? And of course, the last one we do is our last term, b times d, our b term times our d term. And in this case, our two last terms are numbers 1 and 2. And so our L here is 1 times 2. And in this case here, 1 times 2 is 2. Okay. So that's the first part. Now, before we say we're done, we have one more thing we do. We always have to combine our middle terms here, okay? So that's the second step of this whole thing. First step is to get through the FOIL business, multiply everything like we did up here, multiply, all right? Our next thing is to combine our two middle terms. So our first term gets dropped down, okay? X squared, all right? Our last term, 2, gets dropped down, okay? That's a plus 2, so plus 2 gets dropped down. Our middle term here gets added up and dropped down. So 2x plus x, if you do it, would be 3x. So our final answer here, x squared plus 3x plus 2. Okay. So that's the whole thing in a nutshell, okay? And that's the first example. All right. First, x times x squared. Outer, x times 2, 2x. Inner, 1 times x. Last, 1 times 2, 2. I combined my middle terms because, look, they both have the same thing. They both have an x, okay? You can't combine the first one that has a square to it. No one else has a square. You can't combine this one because it's just 2 by itself. There's no variable attached to it. There's no letter attached, which means you can't combine it with anything else. So that's why our last one and our first one get brought down the same. So our two both share an x. They both share a variable, which means you can combine them, you can add them. 2x plus 1x equals 3x. Okay? Let's try another example. Let's do x plus 4, and then x minus 2. Okay. So, same concept, right? Same thing we're doing. First off, our a term times our c term, our first ones. Okay, so our first terms here are x and x still, okay? So x times x, okay? And that's still going to be x squared, okay? That's our f. Okay. our F. Okay. And then our next one, our O, our outers. Okay, so our A term times our D term. So our outer terms are X times our 2. Now look, we have a negative, a minus here. X is X minus 2. Now if our minus sign is in front of our 2 here, it turns our 2 into a negative number, which means that when we do this, we're going to do X times negative 2. So X times negative 2, okay? And when we do X times negative 2, our O is going to be a negative 2x when we multiply it, okay? Now, our I, remember our I is our inner, okay, our two inner ones here. So B times C. So B times C, our middle ones here are 4 and x. So when we do our I, okay, we do 4 times x, and 4 times x equals 4x. And then our last terms, our B and our D terms, our last ones in each one, our numbers, it's 4 times negative 2. Remember, this minus is in front, so it's a negative 2. So 4 times negative 2, 4 times negative 2, and that equals, our L is a negative 8. Okay. Now, if we put this together as an equation, we have x squared minus 2x, and this is a positive, so it's plus 4x, and then a minus 8. Remember, our first gets dropped down to x squared, our last gets dropped down, then this negative, this minus comes with it. So it's a minus 8. This comes with it, all right? And then our middle terms get added up. We have a negative 2x plus a 4x. So negative 2 plus 4 would be a positive 2x. Okay, and that's our final answer. X squared plus 2x minus 8. And that's final. Okay. Same process. First, outer, inner, last. First, outer, inner, last. First, x times x, x squared. Outer, x times negative 2, negative 2x. Inner, 4 times x, 4x. Last, 4 times negative 2, negative 8. Combine your middle terms, because they both have the same letter. Drop it down. 2x outside terms get dropped down. X squared and negative 8. Okay. Let's do one more. Let's do x minus 4, x minus 8. Okay, so same thing we're doing here, right? First thing, our f, our first two terms here, a times c. So our f here, same, x and x. So x times x is going to equal x squared. Our O, our outer, our a times d. First and the last one here. So our first term is x, and then the other one. Now look, we have a negative in front of here, this 8 again. So that minus makes it times a negative 8. Okay, and so x times negative 8 is a negative 8x. Our I, or inner terms, our B and our C terms multiplied. Look, we have a minus in front of this 4 here. So we have a negative 4 times x. So negative 4 times x. And when we do that, we get a negative 4x. And then our last here, our B and our D terms, our B and D. So our last terms here are our numbers, negative 4 times negative 8. So negative 4 times negative 8. And when we do that, we get negative times negative equals a positive 32. Okay. Now, put this together. X squared is a minus, so minus 8x minus 4x plus 32. Remember, drop down your first, x squared. Drop down your last, 32. It's plus, so plus 32. and then combine your middle terms here. And we'll drop it down. So negative 8x and negative 4x gets you a negative 12x. Okay, and that's your final answer, x squared minus 12x plus 32. Okay, and that's your final answer for that. So those are some simple examples, okay? Same process. First, outer, inner, last. First, outer, inner, last. Okay, that's what we're doing, okay? These two, these two, these two, these two, okay? Next video we'll have some more things added to it.